Hey guys, in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to vector your custom type using horizontal and vertical anchor points in Adobe Illustrator. Okay, so what you're going to do is go to Illustrator, you're going to press Ctrl K or Command K if you're on Mac, and this will bring up the Illustrator preferences, and what you want to do is go down to Selection and Anchor Display, and then you want to make sure Show Handles when multiple anchors are selected. You want to make sure this is ticked and then press OK. And I'll just show you what this does. This is what I did earlier. If you go down to your direct select tool now and you highlight over something you've created like this, for example, you'll see that all your anchor points show up, and it shows all the handles as well. I'm going to show you a piece of type that I did probably about 2 years ago maybe, and this is when I didn't know how to use these horizontal and vertical anchor points, and as you can see it's a mess and it looks really bad. So this is the shake type that I recently did using this method, and as you can see it's clearly a lot better. So this is what we're going to be focusing on today. So I'm going to go back to this document, hide this, and I've got this drawing. It says safe, and I went here to get this. I couldn't think of a word to write, so I just typed in 4-letter word beginning with this, and you'll get all these Scrabble websites, so have a look on them. Just click on this, and as you can see you've got all these different words here, 4-letter words beginning with S. Practice with these, do whatever you want. Go back to Illustrator. Right, so the first thing you want to do is, let's start this document again. File new. I've got mine set to 1920 by 1080 pixels just for this video, for the sake of this. I'm going to turn on the rulers by pressing Ctrl R or Command R if you're on Mac. Drag one out there, drag one out there, highlight them both, go over to a line, press these two to get it centered, and then lock this layer. And you're going to create a new layer above that. From here you want to drag in the piece of custom type that you've made, so I'm just going to drag mine in here from Dropbox. Oops. There we go. Drag this in. And you don't necessarily have to use a scanner to get your pictures. I mean, this was taken with my iPhone, so you don't necessarily have to have a scanner to get like a brilliant quality. I mean, you don't really need a brilliant quality picture, to be honest. Anyway, it's just a reference really. So once you've dragged it in, you can lock the layer. Double click the little thumbnail here, and this will pop up. What you're going to do is press dim image to 50% and press OK. And then you're going to make a new layer on top of that, and you're going to come down here to your stroke color. Make sure your stroke's selected like this, and this will probably be set to white, so just press that, and if it's white just double click the stroke, and then you can drag and select your color. Press OK. And now let's get to actually vectoring the type. I'm going to put a diagram on screen now of what I made earlier, and it shows you the placement of the anchor points, both horizontal and vertical. So this will make more sense to you once you've seen what I'm doing, and then you can refer back to this when obviously you're doing it, and this should help you out. So let's get back to the actual vectoring. So you're going to press P on your keyboard to get the pen tool. I'm going to start off by going to the top of the S here, and this one's going to be a horizontal point, so you're going to click and hold, and hold shift as well and drag, and you'll see it brings out the anchor arms. And let go around here, and this again you can adjust these in a minute, which you probably will have to do. So as you can see now it's from horizontal, and the next one you want to do is going to be a vertical. So I'm going to go to the next outermost point, which is all the way down here. I'm going to click, drag, holding shift again, and as you can see it doesn't quite align, and this is probably what throws quite a lot of people off from using this method, because they don't know how to fix this. But what you do is you go to the handle, hold Alt and Shift at the same time, and click on the handle, and you can actually adjust this, as you can see. So I'm just gonna, this will take a bit of trial and error, but once you've kind of got the hang of it, it becomes much easier and you can do it much faster. So I'm just gonna drag this in, and as you can see it's still not quite right at the bottom, so I'm gonna go to this one, holding Alt and Shift again, drag it down, and now it doesn't quite match in the middle, so I'm just going to drag this bit out a little bit. As you can see it's still a little bit off, so I'm going to pull this one up a bit, drag that one in a little bit more, and as you can see it's getting on perfect. Not necessarily perfect, nothing's perfect, but here we go. So that's a nice curve. And then as you can see, this is dragging round, and obviously you don't want it to be a big curve around here. So what you do is hold Alt again and Shift, then click and drag from here, and it'll bring back the anchor arm, and you can resize it. So I'm going to bring this down to about here, and then this one here is going to be a horizontal because you've just done a vertical. So I'm going to click and drag, holding Shift again. And I don't quite want this to be as rounded as it is, so what I'm going to do is hold Shift and Alt like before, click the handle, drag this up. As you can see, it's created a bit more of a sharper edge. So let's go to the next part. From what I was looking up earlier, it says don't do this, but that was for cubic curves, and I think that's for when it comes to actually creating a typeface. But since we're only vectoring the type and it's not going to be a typeface, this is okay. So you're going to go from horizontal to horizontal again, and as you can see, the outermost point here, click about here and drag again, and oops, drag it to about there, and then again adjusting this handle here by holding Alt and Shift again, drag it back in to about here. You don't, because the next point is going to be here on the outermost point, which is going to be a vertical, you don't want this handle to overlap. So you want it to be before the point, if you know what I mean, here. So I'll just give you an example of how it would look if you did over. Right. So as you can see, that's past where the point would be. And if I was to put a horizontal here now, click and drag holding Shift, you get this horrible shape, which obviously you don't want. So let's undo that with Control Z. I'm going to drag this back in with Alt and Shift, drag that in to about there. Outermost point here, click and hold Shift, and you see you've got a nice curve. And then this is a big curve, so I'm going to hold Alt and Shift again, drag this point all the way down pretty far, and that looks about right. Click outermost point here again at the bottom, click, drag, oops, holding Shift, and as you can see, this doesn't quite work. So again, Alt and Shift, click, drag, make the adjustment, and that looks fine. So again, back here, to bring the arm back out to where you want it to be, hold Alt Shift again, click and drag, got this back, and you're going to go for a vertical here because it's a outermost point again, and make sure this doesn't overlap again like before. Click, drag, holding Shift, and that looks a bit sharp, so drag this out a little bit. That's better. See, it doesn't always have to match your type, the drawing that you've done. It doesn't always have to match 100%, because obviously when you're vectoring it, you'll see imperfections in your type that you probably wouldn't have seen on paper. So this is an example. Let's go for the next horizontal, which is up here, the outermost point. I'm going to click here, drag and hold and Shift, and as you can see, I forgot to drag this one up, and now it's giving you this really horrible point. So Alt Shift, click and drag the handle, and it's overlapping a bit there, so I'm going to drag this one back in a little bit. Now we're getting down to the finer details. Don't be afraid to zoom really far in, really close, as close you like, and get these really small details because they do matter. So let's go here, vertical. These ones can only be really small. When you zoom out and look at it, you'll see how it looks. I'll show you in a second. And again, you don't want these to overlap, so bring that up a bit. Vertical, no, horizontal, sorry. And then outermost point here, just before it turns. Get another vertical in. And then we're going to go for another horizontal at the top here, at the outermost point. Click and drag. And as you can see, another horrible point, so Alt and Shift, click and drag, and there's your nice curve. Right. Again, holding Shift and Alt, drag it out. This is going to be a big curve, so I need to pull it out quite far. Like I said, it doesn't matter if you pull it too far or too short. You can always go back and adjust it. Even when you finish the whole thing, you can go back and adjust other parts, so that's always handy. Go to the outermost point, click and drag, and then holding Shift and Alt, dragging this back up, and then we're going to go for the horizontal at the bottom, click and drag, holding Shift, It's a nice curve. And again, you've got another big one here, and as you can see, you can't quite see where this outermost point is because the A is overlapping, so I'm just going to take a guess, but you can kind of see it. So maybe when you're doing your type, you might want to not fill it in and just leave it as an outline, but if you do, you can guess and you'll get close enough. So I'm just going to find about here, click, drag, and again adjust this, pull this out a bit further. It's nice. Pull this back out, get this horizontal here, click, drag. As you can see, the original drawing's got like a bit of a flat edge, but I'm going to ignore that and go for the curve because that's what I actually wanted. That was just an error in the drawing, so click and drag, click and drag. As you can see, it's a curve that matches the inside. Make it a bit, I think, actually. See, as you can see, the guesswork didn't quite work as well, so I'm going to go to the direct select tool just to adjust this point. And using the arrow keys, you can actually just move this about. I'm going to try and align, as you can see, this point here. I'm going to try and get this somewhat close to there, maybe a bit below, like this. And then from there, I'm now going to adjust the anchor points to make it match better. There you go. Oops. Click and drag. As you can see, it matches the inside curve much better now. Just drag up a bit more. I think when I've finished the letter, I'm going to go back and make some adjustments as well, just to make sure it is right, because I can see some errors here, like this. It's a bit off. So we'll go back and fix these at the end. Click and drag to bring the anchor back out. And this one here, I'm not actually going to hold shift when I do this one. I'm just going to click. As you can see, it still matches, but you can adjust this here to make it match. There you go. And then from here, this one is a horizontal, but again, it's hidden behind this. And what you don't want to do, you don't want to go here and then follow this round. You want to create two individual shapes so that you can adjust things. So I'm going to go about here, just a bit under, click, drag. Oops, that's caps lock. There we go. Get that. Drag this back in. And now I'm just going to reconnect this. But because it's behind it, you won't see this part anyway, but I'm just going to keep the theme going. And then connect, holding shift. There you go. So now you've got the first shape of the S. I'm just going to do the little part hanging off the top here. I'm going to start off by doing a vertical. Right, so I'm going to click, drag. And as you can see, if you were to do a horizontal, you'd get this, and that's not exactly what you're going for. So what you want, again, this is just going to be a vertical to a vertical again. But what you're going to do is drag this quite far down, so as you can see the line curves as you come in, and you're going to do another vertical here. And you can see you get this nice curve, and I'm going to adjust that a little bit just to make it more correct. Then from here, pull the anchor out, and go for outermost point here, horizontal, click and drag. And then this needs to be quite rounded, so I'm going to go straight from there to this point up here. Click and drag, holding shift. And then you want to pull this out a bit, adjust this. As you can see, it's a nice curve. Pull this out, and then we're going to create a horizontal up here. Drag this before the point, like before. I'm just going to click here and hold shift, get the connection, make it look nice, and then there's your shape. Now, the reason I've done this separately is because, well, one, it's so you can always adjust each part of the type, which is always very useful, but also because this was a bit too wide in the original drawing, and I did want to adjust this and make it thinner. So once I've made the shape, you could just make the shape smaller, or you could make the shape as it is and do what I'm doing now and just shrink it. So I'm just literally going to drag this in, and you can move this to however you want. And then if some of the curves don't quite look right once you've like squashed it, You can go back and adjust them, which is really easy, really fast to do as well, like you've just been doing for the rest of the type. Right, I'm just going to go back now and fix some of these errors that I noticed, which, for example, this one. As you can see there's a little bit of a bump here, which you don't really want, so I'm going to adjust this with the direct select tool. Click on the point, and again holding Shift and Alt, you can click and drag and adjust the point. And because that, as you can see, has like this little point here, what you want to do is just drag this one a bit further up, and it will just curve it a little bit more for you. Right, so that curve looks fine now, but now this one's looking a bit off, so I'm going to drag this to the right a little bit just to get that curve flowing better. As you can see, just by doing that it makes it look a lot better, and I'm just going to drag this out a bit more to get a better curve. There we go, that's much better. As you can see, that flows 10 times better than it did before. This, again, there's another little point here which I'm not too happy with, so I'm going to drag that up a little. Oops. No, that needs to come down. Drag it, oops. Drag it in. Drag this one out a bit further. And I think what's happening is this one because this point doesn't seem to be disappearing, so I'm going to adjust this one underneath, drag it up a bit, and I think this was the cause. This one needs to be pulled out further. Let me drag this a little bit more. As you can see, it is a lot of trial and error. There's no fast track at this. You've just got to get good at it. You've just got to practice and get better at it. So it's just a matter of practicing. That'll do. That looks. Ooh, that looks alright. Actually, that's fine. Right. So that's the S finished, but I don't really think I need to go into the other letters to show you. I mean, the S is pretty complex anyway, I suppose, so you can kind of get the idea of what you're supposed to do with the type just from this one letter. And from oh, actually, here we go, another little error here. Let's adjust this. See, it doesn't quite, this little bump here doesn't look right, so I'm gonna drag this to the left a little bit. I'm gonna move this point down so it flows better. Drag this to get the curve. I think this point needs to move down as well so this curve can be smoother. Yeah. Drag this one down a tad. There. Adjust it. Pull this one out a little. That's still not quite looking right. Let's pull this in a little. That looks better. This needs to come back across and down. And adjust this one holding Shift and Alt again. Click and drag. Just to get that nice curve. And as you can see, that the end of the S there looks miles better than it did previously. So, and if you want to see all of the anchor points, like on this shake type that I did, like this. If you want to see all these anchor points at the start, I showed you how to turn the setting on, which you have done. So what you're going to do is just highlight everything with the direct select tool, and you'll see that you've got all of your anchor points are highlighted. And you can also press this here, which will convert it to a fill. And then you've got your letter. So to summarise this method, it reduces point placement, it saves time, it's less guesswork because you know where the points are going to be going, and you'll see visibly better results in your work. Also, it becomes a fun, well, at least for me anyway, it's become a fun process. Before this, I loved drawing out the type and whatnot, but as soon as it came to not having to vector the work, that was like a big flaw that I had. I didn't want to do it, I didn't enjoy doing it. But now that the results that I'm creating are actually decent, they actually look good, it motivates you to do it more, and it makes you want to do it more as well. So it's definitely something you should try and do. You might notice as well in different type styles that the points don't necessarily change, but For example, when I was going vertical to vertical, that might not be the case in some different type styles, so obviously you'll see these when you come to the problem, so you'll be able to fix it then. Anyway, I hope this tutorial's really helped you. I mean, it's really helped me from what I've read up, and this is obviously how I found out how to do it. I've researched it, and now I'm passing the information on to you guys as best as I can, so I hope it's helped. Let me know what other tutorials you want to see, and I'll see you next time.